Hey, let's have a look at this story around the brain drain. It's not a long one, but then we've got a couple other things to get to, so we'll get to it. This is 60 seconds with Acting Prime Minister David Seymour from this afternoon, talking about why. And we thought they'd gone past the blame Labor, not entirely.
Look, there's no question that we are undertaking a tough recovery from a very disruptive event, which was COVID inflation, COVID interest rates, and a recession that came from those high interest rates. However, I'm not surprised that in the year after the government changed, we still faced very tough conditions. Remember, this data goes from January last year to December last year. We're now in July the following year. So that's basically the first year that we were in government. We were still recovering from a lot of the policies that we inherited. I expect that as time goes on, as we maintain really careful spending as a government, as interest rates come down, rents get lower, mortgage rates are coming down, there's a lot more reasons for people to stay in New Zealand. And that, of course, takes some time, but I believe that New Zealand is going to be an increasingly good vote as this government goes on.
Thank you, Stuff, for that footage. But as I was saying, there seems to be a history of right-wing governments and the brain drain hitting New Zealand. Tens of thousands of New Zealanders packed their bags for Australia last year with a net migration loss across the Tasman of 30,000 people. So that means 10,000 moved here, 40,000 went there, whatever the numbers are. A net migration loss of 30,000 people. Stats New Zealand released the net migration figures for 2024 on Thursday, which confirmed the brain drain remained high at a rate similar to 2012, Chewie. So something interesting about 2024 and 2012, you know, there was a particular party or certainly governing ideology and heart and charge during those. While New Zealanders were immigrating to Australia, the country's population continued to grow thanks to immigration from other countries. Net migration from the rest of the world saw an extra 54,000 people move to New Zealand last year. That meant that in total, net migration for New Zealand was estimated to be 24,200 person gain for last year. But the specific data they're looking at is to Australia. Now, I just want to ask a real simple question, yeah? It's like, if, I forget who's in right now, but if any government filled the people of New Zealand with enough reason, like enough, I'm looking for a word that means I'm feeling good about things, enough optimism. Reason to stay. Optimism, there you go, that'll do. Enough optimism that they were going to turn around a system, even if it happened to be the last people's fault. Not that we're saying it is, but even if it was, for a government to come in and go, we've got the answers, we're going to turn it around, we're going to be the greatest little country in the world again, we're going to get back on track, and then to have more people leaving that haven't seen numbers like it since the last national lot we're in, which would have been right, yep, because Key was in that block. It does at least allow me to bode the question, why don't people trust the economy of the right to stay here and earn more? Why do they trust the economy of the left more? And I can show you, we often lose people to Australia, but there's a graph here that shows, and obviously, you know, we will say when there's a negative stat, sometimes COVID impacted it. We'll say the same about this for COVID, so we won't read too much into that kind of COVID spike there, where we gained more from Australia. But you can have a look. It starts to up an incline, and then 2016 is when Jacinda gets in.
Not a small difference.
But you know, this is national. Like fair, this is national here. But we basically always lose more to Australia than we get when we bring in. But look, during Labor's tenure, this is all pre-COVID, remember? So this is not all the people coming back, you know, because of COVID. This is COVID. Gotcha. This is not though. So why under a left government do we see a much more successful return rate of our citizens staying rather than going to Australia? And then under even up here, so this is Labor. It's not great, but it's not where I know this is still, because he was 2008, so he came in here. And then he got a bit in, this is Key, got back, and worst of all. So why after a year or so in, couple of years in, do they run from New Zealand? Because you would think if this was the government of business, if this is the government that was going to turn this country around, the brain drain. Remember, the brain drain is not just everybody. It is kind of your best, your smartest. That's the idea. It's the white collar people. Why wouldn't they stay if they had faith that the right wing government was going to do what they said they do? Why do they run? It's confusing.
It's the government of big business, not business.
Yeah.
Government of the boardroom.
Yeah.
Like I was having a look at that. I'm just going to read from something I saw on Reddit. Someone looking at figures that have just been released. 758 construction businesses have gone into liquidation in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Construction jobs have fallen by almost 13,000.
Wow.
Now, I would say that those construction jobs have either all or in the vast majority gone to Australia. Just wholesale.
Yeah.
Now, that's because we've seen, the government's building program, kind of aura building stuff that would have kept local construction companies ticking over, would have kept it worthwhile to take on apprentices, that sort of thing. They've just been cancelled wholesale to save the government money. And the government's now selling off these locations from one end of the country to the other. But they have lost sight of those flow-on effects that we talk about. Again, cost of everything, value of nothing. They have lost the money that would have gone into the local economy, the tax dollars that those companies and workers would have been paying on their income and their spending. We've lost all of that. And we've also lost all the flow-on effects. No, they won't come back. They'll establish their lives overseas. They'll meet someone, they'll have kids, they'll stay over there. Once they're gone, it's very hard to get them back. We need a global pandemic.
Fingers crossed.
And then the other flow-on effects is obviously the cost to New Zealand of having an unhoused population or an underhoused population. It dovetailing into the conversation we've just had, one of the big factors in making sure that people don't fall into that life of criminality or bad choices is security of housing. So it's just so clear to me that this government does not have a holistic view, a whole pathway. Like, if we do this, what happens to this? What is the benefit here? What does this do? They've just knocked out Jenga pieces without really knowing what's holding the whole fucking thing together.
Yeah.
But losing 13,000 tradies in a year.
Yeah, that's a lot. It would be interesting to find out what percentage that is, because 13,000 sounds like a lot, but then you think about how many tradies there are. I mean, that's going to be a tiny subset comparatively. Like, is that 10% of our tradies? Like, how many are there? That's terrifying.
How many of those are essentially small business owners or future small business owners, sole traders or small, you're talking about an owner operator and 2 or 3 employees and an apprentice, those sort of small businesses. But those are the guys that are doing people's renovations and kitchens and additions and building new houses and that sort of thing. And they're just fucking gone. We can't replace that. And then when you look at, obviously the discussion about net migration and that sort of thing is like, are we losing 13,000 tradies, and with the guys coming in, are we getting more tradies from a different country? Probably not.
Yeah, I've just done a Google search and I've got that AI overview. This is construction though, not tradies. 308,500, 10.7% of the total workplace. So if that's the same, that's 100. That's a third. No, what did you say? No, 13. Sorry, that's 3%. 3%. 13,000, not a third. But it says here the construction industry is 10.7. Means it's a significant employer. The construction workforce saw an increase of, ironically, 13,700 workers between 2022 and 2023. Despite the large number, the industry is facing a skills shortage, with estimates suggesting a need for an additional 50,000 tradies by 2022. So we're already well under demand in tradies, and now we've just lost a big chunk more.
And that was a problem that Labor had identified years ago and gone, we need to turbocharge an apprenticeship program. And they did. And it was starting to pay dividends. And then the current government came in and went, I don't know, teaching people trades is woke, and got rid of it. Short-term thinking.
Yeah.
No overall plan, no vision for the future of this country.
Yep.
That's the government that we have.